The latest expansion for Stellaris, Apocalypse, is finally here. It supplements the massive 2.0 overhaul that the game has received in the last few days. So here's the question, however. Is it on par with Utopia, a similarly priced expansion from 2017? Are its features strong enough to warrant the $20 and/or local equivalent price tag? Now, the headline item for the expansion is the Colossus, a planet-destroying capital ship type that has been heavily requested by the Stellaris community since release. Whilst the ability of destroying a planet by itself is fairly interesting on its own, the development team has added several additional flavors to the features. These include the ability to, of course, destroy a planet using the planet cracker, potentially leaving resources for materials. Purging it of all life forms using the neutron sweep, an idea most likely inspired by the idea of gamma rays, is also available. Mass converting the population into the spiritual ethic using the quote-unquote a god ray. It also destroys any mechanical life forms in the process. And a global pacifier, which envelops the planet in an impenetrable shield to keep it locked away forever, generating a large amount of society research. Think kind of like DC villains Brainiac's tendency to bottle up places and keeping it around for science purposes. Finally, there's a special version available for the mechanical-driven assimilators, for those of you who own Synthetic Dawn, and basically it uses a beam that instantly converts the entire population of the planet to your empire instantly. Now, every single ship design type in the game has their own beautifully animated and fully realized hull type that is amazing to behold. In addition, owners of both planetoids and humanoids species pack receive their own models, further increasing the quote-unquote value proposition of these mini expansions. Also, Volan empires have their own models that they will use to punish uppity young races, if so required. And actually using a Colossus is more of a role-playing-esque item. Actually blowing up a planet instead of capturing its resources seems to be a wasteful thing to do, and I only see it really being practical when it comes to cleaning up your space of tiny habitable worlds to get their mineral leftovers instead of colonizing them and being hit by an additional tech cost, as colonizing a world will do that. The neutron sweep itself is a decent concept, although you'll have to go through the process of growing the population again, but at least all the buildings will still be intact for your species to take over. The God Ray is an interesting exercise, as flipping the ethics of your pops can be extremely useful if to keep them in line, as well with the global pacifier. Locking up an entire world of pops does open up amazing future scenarios of potentially having a species break out. However, that is currently not possible. Driven assimilators get a great deal, as the planetary nanobot cloud is incredibly useful for them as well. Then there's Titans. Titans have been in the game for quite some time, but only being accessible to fallen empires and their counterparts, awakened empires. However, with Apocalypse, players will be able to get their hands on these titanic machines that can one-shot battleships across systems. These flagships have the ability to fit a aura effect similar to how stations worked in previous versions, or even how battleships used to work before the rework in 1.3 Highline, sometime during 2016. Overall, they are incredibly powerful additions to your fleet, as with the Colossi, they come with their own individual models based on your choice of ship type. They are also static defense variants called ion cannons that use the same cross-system weapon type, the Perdition Beam. Similar to Utopia, which added several types of enclaves, Apocalypse comes with its own flavor factions, the Marauders. They are essentially steppe-nomads in space with their own clans and will raid nearby territories if given the chance. Similarly to enclaves, they also have services available to you that you can use to hire, say, an admiral or general, and also entire fleets for you to hire for mercenary work at a rather steep price. There are also changes in their potential clan unity in the mid-game, which allows them to form a new empire headed by a Khan in space. This essentially creates a mini-crisis, which is something that was desperately needed to give the mid-game a little bit more flavor and keep things interesting. This crisis comes with its own extended story events and will keep you busy in-game for at least 50 years. Also included are several new starting civics, life-seated, which is perfect for the Stellaris One Planet Challenge, a community-created way of playing the game. The civic essentially confines your species to one massive planet, ready to conquer the galaxy. Then there's post-apocalyptic, which makes your species start on a world that has been devastated by some sort of cataclysmic event. And of course, barbaric, the spoilers, a starter civic which allows you to steal pops from other empires and put them to work in yours. Perfect for those of you who want to play as an enslaving space pirate faction which can skirmish with other empires and take their resources without actually taking any territory. Sadly, there is no slave trading in the game as of yet, but I'm sure the modders will add something in sooner or later. Then there's 4 new Ascension perks, a system that no longer requires Utopia. It's now added to the base game to further give your empire personality based around your options. All of this is framed with the excellent new music from Paradox's in-house composer Andreas Waldetoft, who has added 3 additional tracks for the Apocalypse theme and are absolutely excellent. So then here's the question, is all of this worth the price of admission? If you're looking at to supplement your Stellaris experience by adding sci-fi staples like planet carriers, massive capital ships, and what are basically space Mongols, as well as having more options at the start of the game, then I absolutely recommend Stellaris Apocalypse. Just be aware that the main features become available in the mid to late game, which may be a challenge for some players to get to. Comparatively, this expansion is on par to the similarly priced Utopia, and I would put it right up there with the expansion when it comes to as a must-buy. If there was anything not to like, then there is the Unity ambitions that the expansion also brings. They are unlocked extremely late in the game and allow you to spend your Unity on them once your tradition tree has been completely filled in. But once again, considering how late they are in the game and how challenging it can be to fill in those tradition trees before we start using Unity on these, I'll let that slide. Personally, I would put it in the base game, considering Unity is a base resource and you need to spend it on something sooner or later, but this is something that is up in the air. Overall, Apocalypse is an excellent addition to the growing Stellaris world, which in combination with the overhaul 2.0 patch will give you hundreds of hours of entertainment in what is effectively a completely new game. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and or subscribe, and we're going to go move on back towards more gameplay, more descriptions and mechanics videos that are coming up very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, each other.